Alright, welcome back to a new TouchDesigner tutorial. And in this one we're going to look at how to route in audio from somewhere internally on your device. So when you're like playing audio on your computer from like Spotify or YouTube or iTunes or something, how we can route that into TouchDesigner. So we're going to build this little component here that takes care of that, and where we can change a few things, just two things actually. And so we can just kind of drag and drop this to use this again in the future. And yeah, so basically what we need here is a little external software called VBCable. There is also a way apparently to just do this without that, and I'm gonna just quickly mention that at the end, and I'm not gonna talk about it now. So because for me that doesn't work, and for me this works greatly. So let's just do that. So yeah, this is sort of like three parts. So in the first part we're just going to download the software, then we're going to build this chop setup here, and then this top setup here for some simple visualization. Alright, so I'm going to like pause the music and let's go ahead to this website, and I'm going to link down in the description. And here you can download the installer. So you can either download this for Mac or Windows. So I only have a Windows, so I can only show it here. So let's do that. All right, so we have the zip. I've done this a few times, as you can see. And let's just extract that here. And yeah, we don't even need that anymore. Okay, so only these two things, or these three things technically, are interesting for us. So for now, you just need to make sure you have the right system, so 32 or 64-bit Windows, and I have a 64-bit. So don't just run the setup, right-click and run this as an administrator. It needs to be like that. There's also some instructions here. Yeah, so for you it's going to say install driver. For me it says remove driver. Just install it and then confirm that you trust this software. And then you actually need to restart your computer, and then just come back once you've done that. Alright, so there is this control panel in here, which I can just open. We have a look. But I wouldn't actually recommend changing anything about here. For people that know more about this, yeah, the control panel is in the folder. Alright, so before we dive into TouchDesigner, let's have a look at our sound settings. There's the output and the input, and usually they're set to the speaker and microphone. And in our case, we just want to set both to cable. So like change the output to cable input, change the input to cable output. And then let's dive into TouchDesigner. And let's actually get rid of all of this, because we're just going to rebuild it together. So what we're going to start with is we need an audio device in. And we want to change this format to stereo, because we usually have stereo, and we don't actually need to change anything else here. Because if you start music, then you don't hear anything, that's fine, but you see that the audio is coming in here. So what we need to do now is add a device out here and change the device to your speaker. And I would change the buffer length to 0.1, so it's the same as here. I think that's important, I'm not sure though. So if your sound is kind of weird, maybe play around with the buffer lengths. That could be a thing. But yeah, so this technically is the whole thing. You just need the VBCable and then route it in like this. So what's happening here is that we have Spotify right now sending like audio, but not to the speakers, but to our VBCable output, and the output is just like getting it back as an input, and we're just using this input again here and outputting that again. So it sounds a bit weird, I guess it is, but it works pretty nicely. There might be some latency coming from here, like from Spotify or YouTube or anywhere you're playing music. So I can also just change this to YouTube. right, there might be some small latency there, but the thing is, of course, we're like playing it here as well, and there's no latency between these. This doesn't actually really matter. At the end, what comes out is a very nicely synced audio and visual. Yeah. So let's just make the little component now. So let's add a map here to combine both of these channels, because we want to have a stereo input, but we usually want to work with just one channel. So let's just change this to average. And let's also, yeah, let's get back to the math in a second. We also want an audio spectrum and 2 nulls here, one from the math, one from the spectrum. Okay, and then what we want to do is select all of these, right click and collapse selected, and let's call this internal media in. We can actually delete these and just go in here now. Alright, so this works nicely. So we could have just made an out, whatever. Yeah, so what we can do now is, again, put a null here and convert this into a chop. No, actually, before we do that, again, sorry, let's right click on here and go to customize component. Let's make a page that's called controls. And now we can just go to audio device out and put the volume here and say set reference expression on source. And the same of the multiply of the math. That now enables us to control here the volume and the strength, and you're going to see like the gain of our audio signal. And we're going to see why that matters in a second. So let's just use a chop 2 here. Let's make this 32-bit float. For float mono. Let's actually play something so we can see this. I'm just gonna like play this. Okay, so now we just use a resolution here and change this to 1080 by 1080. And output as a resolution as well. And then what we want to do is add a blur, a displace, a ramp to the displace. Let's change this to circular, change this to hold, and go down with the UV weight. Change this to 10 on the blur. And let's just add a null here, and we might also want to add an out here. And let's call this one BG. And let's also change on the ramp, let's also change this to 32-bit float. And now, there we go. We can also go to the common of our base and change this to BG, so we see what's going on inside there. And now, I'm just gonna go back to some part where there's something happening. Now you can multiply it, as you can see here. Just the visual output is gonna be higher. That might be useful. I don't know. You can customize this, of course. And here you just have the outputs of like the spectrum and the not spectrum. All right, I think that's about it. Just like one thing, I'm gonna pause this again. After you like leave TouchDesigner, you might want to change this back to your speakers and your microphone. And before you start your TouchDesigner, Spotify, whatever session, you need to change this again to cable. But that's the only thing you always need to do, is just change this to cable or like not cable. And for the other part, you can just open your sound settings and go to sound control panel, and then to the recording, and then right click and show the disabled devices, like turn this on. And if you have your stereo mix or like stereo mixer in there, then apparently it also works with that, but I don't have it. Like apparently my sound card doesn't support it, and like for some people it does work, for some people it doesn't. I think it's a similar setup if you use that. But anyways, I can't really help you much with that. Just so you know, it's possible technically. All right, so I just want to like thank all the patrons that are supporting me, and if you want to become a patron as well, then have a look at the link in the description. I'm very grateful for everybody who's supporting me, and yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and I see you on the next video.